Spontaneous speaking video 62. What's up, everyone? So today I'm going to talk to you guys about, I want to say, a concept called inertia, but we already know about what inertia is if you guys have taken physics, things along those lines. But I'm going to spin it in a different way to apply it more to your life. And I'm going to start off by throwing a few examples that I've used. So to make this all quick, pretty much going to make it into 3 points before I wrap it all up. Kind of sound like a Baptist preacher. Anyway, the first point. I was talking to a friend about 2 nights ago. Well, actually a friend of a friend, but it's a friend. Anyway, she started to pretty much tell me about how her ex seems to have been moving on and doing a whole bunch of like great things in life. And she said that she's happy for her ex and everything, and she's happy that her ex is succeeding, yada yada yada. However, she can't help but look at herself and be like, dang, well, what the heck am I doing? Man, I really must suck, or as a person, or why aren't I succeeding in life or doing as much as this ex of mine is doing? Pretty much comparing herself to her ex and all of her ex's successes. And try and say that 3 times fast. Her ex's successes. Anyway, so essentially that's what she was telling me, and it was a long story short, of course. But another thing that happened just yesterday, and I told both these people the same thing. This one is another girl. She was telling me that she often feels like the guys that she talks to, she's not good enough for them. So right now she's interested in a guy, and she was telling me yeah, but Denzel, he's doing this and he's doing that, and I'm just over here. What am I doing? And I told her no, she was pretty much saying what would any guy see in me? And I was telling her yo, there's a lot that a guy can see in you. And I started mentioning things to her, because I've known this friend for a while. So it's yo, no, a lot of guys can definitely see this thing in you that's unique to you that other people do not see. She's like, okay, yeah, but those are all things about in here. But I'm talking about tangible things, things I'm not out here leading Bible studies, or I'm not out here, making YouTube videos, or whatever, how those are tangible, what are the tangible things I'm actually doing? And pretty much what I told both of these friends were, I often think about the concept of inertia. Now inertia is essentially the energy that you have. There's 2 different types of energy. Can't remember them right now. I know there's kinetic, and there is, can't remember, I'm sorry. But there's the energy that's pretty much stationary, that stays with you. It's gathering up all of that energy to shoot you forward. And then there's the energy in which is now being used. It's now being shot forward and everything. And what I was saying was that I told both of these friends that despite where you may see other people right now, first of all, we should not be comparing ourselves to other people. And this is advice that I even have to take oftentimes. We all have our different timelines. Not everybody graduates college in 4 years. Some do it less and some do it way more. That's something I had to remind myself. Dang, yeah, I'm still, having a few classes that I have to take and everything. But that doesn't mean that I'm stupid. I'm out here, I have my YouTube channel, which I'm influencing and impacting, and I'm life coaching. All of my clients are essentially way older than me, or around the same age, stuff like that. And I'm traveling and speaking at different places. Those are things to be proud about, right, Denzel? Who cares if you don't have a degree yet, which you're still working on getting? You're only 2 classes away. Like, come on, man, you can do this. But then it's hard to, like, like when you see that and then you look at like other people, how like especially like when it comes to like certain times, like they're having all these pictures of graduation, or in the cases that we're speaking of with these 2 women, she sees her ex and she's like, dang, like, that person's like doing this and doing that, and here I am, like, what am I doing with my life? And then the second person, where it's like, man, like, I'm not even good enough for this guy, because this guy's doing this and he's doing that and he's doing that, and yeah, inside I'm pretty much like a good person, but what exactly am I doing to like bear that fruit? And like I said, inertia is that energy that is pretty much stationary. It stays in one spot. Inertia is the energy in which, in the thumbnail, you see that I pretty much like have the whole, like the arrow thing. Inertia is here. It's when you like pull the arrow back, and that energy that's right there with the arrow is inertia. The slingshot, when you have the slingshot like that, the energy that's right there is inertia, because even though it's stationary, it's holding a powerful punch. And so what I told these 2 women were, they were both Christians, and the example I gave to them was Jesus. Now, Jesus, I believe, was a man who gathered quite a lot of inertia. I often speak about like how Jesus was INFJ, ENFJ, like INFJ, and the reason why I personally like believe that over ENFJ is because I said that like ENFJs, they pretty much like ENFJs and INFJs move through life in the same, like they get to the same place at the end of their lives, but it's just that if this is the ENFJ, this is the INFJ, then it's like, and the way I say that is because as the ENFJ allows their intuition to guide them along the path, allows that like they just leap into action and they continue to do things like the whole way. The INFJs usually have to like sit back and really analyze like the exact steps that they're going to take before they finally take them. And then when they do get into action, it's like, okay, boom, 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 boom. They do everything pretty much. And of course, like in a spiritual sense, it was the Holy Spirit who Jesus was like, waiting on, like God's timing and everything. But yeah, just in the whole MBTI sense, like that was just like some explanation for that. And pretty much like that's the reason why I say that about Jesus is because before, what we hear about Jesus is a story of when he was 12 years old. So first, born in a manger, and then the next thing that we pretty much like hear about him is that when he was 12 years old, and he went with his parents to this outing, and he got lost. Well, not necessarily, but like his parents had lost him. They left, and then they were like, "Whoa, where's Jesus? Oh no, we lost the Son of God." So they head back. And when they finally headed back, I believe it was like 3 days. I'm so bad with numbers. But I believe it was like 3 days that they had like lost him. Like, how do you lose a child for 3 days? But they go back. They finally found him in the temple, and he was being very inquisitive and asking the teachers like questions at the age of 12. And they were very fascinated. I used to have this like little picture Bible book when I was little, and now every time when I think about that scene, in the picture Bible book, it showed the teachers, and they were all like, "Ugh," and they're like, they looked like confused, as Jesus looked like he was just asking why, and why this, and why that, or what about this, and like challenging lots of their beliefs. And so they were thinking like, yo, like who is this 12-year-old child that's like all intellectual like this or whatever? Hey, it's the Son of God. But he, after that scene, and to finish that story off, when Joseph and Mary, his parents, found him, they're like, "Jesus, we've been looking all over for you. Where have you been?" And he was like, "You guys should have known that I was at my Father's house," referring to God. And that was the first time that they probably realized, like, oh shoot, like he knows who he is. Anyway, so after that story, there was nothing else recorded in the Bible, at least, of what Jesus was doing until he was 30 years old. So that means from the age of 12 And would that even be considered ministry? Just asking the teachers question, but pretty much all we hear about is when he was 12 years old, he was asking the teachers questions. That could have been gathering the energy, gathering the inertia, gathering the information. And then when he reached 30, who knows what he was doing between 12 and 30? Who knows what he was even doing before he got up to the age of 12? I'm sure that there's more to that story, more than just that story, but that's all that we got in the Bible. But pretty much I see Jesus as like he was gathering all of that inertia. He was being pulled back really, really far in that arrow, in that slingshot. And then when he hit 30 and just let go, he fired off, because within 3 years, he was able to flip the world upside down. He only had his ministry for 3 years. Jesus started his ministry at the age of 30. He was crucified and pretty much like left earth at the age of 33. So within 3 years, this man changed the whole entire planet to the point where like even 2,000 years later, 2,018 years later, we are still talking about him. We still, not everyone of course, but like there's still people who worship him and all of that. And that's one big, impact, within 3 years. And I think that it's very easy to think that before the age of 30, oh, this man wasn't doing anything except for being a carpenter. Nobody could really see the energy, the inertia that was within him, the potential that was within him. They had no idea probably that he was going to shoot off, all they could see was just his stationary position. And looks can be deceiving. Clearly, those people who doubted him, there was even people who still doubted him when he came back home and he was trying to teach to them. It says, and I spoke about this in my product people versus process people video, it says that he literally came back home and tried to do miracles, and people were like, wait a minute, aren't you Joseph's son? Aren't you the little quiet boy that used to do work? Oh, you go out of the city for a little bit and you come back and now you think that you're some sort of prophet? Like, come on now, get out of here with that. That's pretty much how they were treating Jesus, because they saw him as like no potential. They didn't believe in him. Like they saw him as like stationary. But like I said, looks can be deceiving. And I want to just close this off by reading from Joshua chapter 6, verses 1 to 21. I'll try to make it quick. Now Jericho was strongly fortified because of the Israelites, no one leaving or entering. The Lord said to Joshua, "Look, I have handed Jericho its king and its best soldiers over to you. March around the city with all the men of war circling the city one time. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry 7 ram's horn trumpets in the front of the ark. But on the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, while the priests blow the trumpets. When there is a prolonged blast of the horn and you hear its sound, have all the troops give a mighty shout. Then the city wall will collapse and the troops will advance, each man straight ahead." So Joshua, son of Nun, summoned the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant and have 7 priests carry 7 trumpets in front of the ark of the Lord." He said to the troops, "Move forward, march around the city, and have the armed men go ahead of the ark of the Lord." After Joshua had spoken to the troops, 7 priests carrying 7 trumpets before the Lord moved forward and blew the trumpets. The ark of the Lord's covenant and blew the trumpets. The ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. While the trumpets were blowing, the armed men went in front of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear went behind the ark. Hopefully you guys are following along somewhere so this doesn't get lost. Verse 10. But Joshua had commanded the troops, "Do not shout or let your voice be heard. Don't let one word come out of your mouth until the time I say shout. Then you are to shout." So the ark of the Lord was carried around the city, circling it once. They returned to the camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning. The priests took the ark of the Lord, and the 7 priests carrying 7 trumpets marched in front of the ark of the Lord. While the trumpets were blowing, the armed men went in front of them, and the rear guard went behind the ark of the Lord. On the second day, they marched around the city and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. Early on the seventh day, they started at dawn and marched around the city 7 times in the same way. That was the only day they marched around the city 7 times. After the 7th time, the priests blew the trumpets, and Joshua said to the troops, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. But the city and everything in it are set apart to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and everyone with her in the house will live, because she hid the messengers we sent. But keep yourselves from the things set apart, or you will be set apart for destruction. If you take any of those things, you will set apart the camp of Israel for destruction and make trouble for it. For all the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are dedicated to the Lord and must go into the Lord's treasury." This is the kicker. So the troops shouted and the trumpets sounded. When they heard the blast of the trumpet, the troops gave a great shout, and the wall collapsed. The troops advanced into the city, each man straight ahead, and they captured the city. They completely destroyed everything in the city with the sword, every man and woman, both young and old, and every ox and sheep and donkey. So, Denzel, why did you just read that long passage of scripture? The reason why I read all of that was because how did Joshua know that him marching around the city was actually working? How did he know that the walls of Jericho were actually going to collapse on that 7th time? Could he see the walls crumbling? Could he see the walls starting to shake as they would walk around? I actually doubt it. I feel like just if he didn't know that he was even making progress until maybe that 6th time that he walked around, maybe that 7th time, that was when he finally started to see boom, everything just collapsed. But before that, he probably didn't even see, what was actually going on. He didn't see any progress. He probably even doubted. He probably thought, yo, I'm probably tripping. I'm crazy. But he probably believed in God so much that he's like, no, if this is what God told me he's going to do, then I'll just go ahead and carry that out. And then see how it goes from there. All that being said, we should do the same thing with our lives. We should admire those who are actually doing tangible things, who are out and doing stuff and whatever. But know that you're different. Know that your life, everybody's life is different. We can't all follow the same paths. We don't all graduate in 4 years. We don't all go and lead people at the age of 20. We don't all become kings at the age of 16. We don't all go questioning teachers at the age of 12. Stuff like that. We are all different people. We all have different timelines. We all have different paths that we take. But this concept of inertia, make sure that you don't underestimate other people's inertia. You know how they're always talking about making moves in silence and stuff like that, although a lot of people actually make their moves in silence but really very loudly. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt the people who might be doing stuff. They're really storing a lot of inertia. If you feel like somebody's being stagnant, you never know what the type of inertia that they're probably storing. And then as soon as they get released, the further back that you're being pulled in that slingshot, and it looks like you're being pulled back, but the further back that you get pulled, the faster you'll spring forward. They might even beat you to a certain point. And it's not a competition, which is the last thing I wanted to say. It's not a competition. We should all be unified. We should all help each other to accomplish our goals. We should all help each other to be able to reach a certain point. And when we all see that we're all on the same team, I don't have to be mad at my partner for scoring more than I did. I can sit on the bench and be happy that my team is winning. And I think that if we all did this as humanity, as humans, I think that would be very beautiful. Now I'm speaking a lot of NF talk, and a lot of the probably the thinkers are like, okay, time to log out. So I'll just stop it right there. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to really share that with you because I found it to be kind of coincidental that I had to give that same pep talk 2 days in a row, not even 24 hours apart. And so I was like, you know what, maybe it might help somebody else out there, and decided to make this video. Plus, it's been a while since I put up a video. I was in New York all of last week, so I didn't really get the chance to record anything or anything like that. But I'm getting back on top of it, getting back with the coaching. Write me if you guys want to be coached, type confirmations, all of that. Leave a comment or email me at dz2blessed@icloud.com, or message me on Facebook, hit me up on Twitter, whatever. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching, and share with somebody if you feel like it'll be helpful to them. Make sure to leave your comments and thoughts as well. I think that's about it. Done.